Hello and welcome to TWWwork, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing people, the fantastic jobs they do and the paths that led them to where they are today. So I am here today with a really special person. Totally special. Not like that kind of, like lovely special.
I'm special.
You're totally special. Hi Simon.
Hello.
Could you tell the lovely listener what it is you do for a living?
So I fundamentally own my own business as a hairdresser.
Yeah.
But I also have a business that specialises in beauty and aesthetics.
Amazing.
So I have a few little strings to the bow.
You do. And not are you a hairdresser? You're my hairdresser.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have been my hairdresser for
25 years.
25 years plus. And we are sitting here immediately after you've just chopped my hair off.
I have.
So you're going to keep looking at, I can tell you're going to look at me and just go, now do this and do this. So obviously I'm leaving with amazing hair, and then I've got to try not to fuck it up from here on in. Right. You are also the first man on this pod. Do you feel the weight of that?
I don't know how I feel. I feel a bit anxious, but excited. I'm not really sure.
Okay. Right, well, let's just start by going all the way back. Let's talk about little Simon.
Okay.
What were you like when you were younger? What were you into?
Okay, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. You already know this, but listeners are not going to. So I am a gay male.
Yep.
And I lived a young person, should we say, or young man's life with a very open mother that was very happy about me being who I was and what I was.
From literally day one?
She was really open to me. If I wanted to wear like mum's shoes or I wanted to like put makeup on, she wouldn't stop me from doing it. She was very good at just allowing me to be who or what I wanted to be. If I wanted to play with My Little Pony or play with a Care Bear or an Action Man, she was just happy for me to be a happy, open-hearted child.
Wow.
So I had quite a distant relationship with my dad. He worked away a lot when I was a kid. So Monday to Friday he would be away, and then Friday night he would come home. And I had a good relationship with my dad. It was very much I could be a mummy's boy in the week and I could be a daddy's boy at the weekend.
Yeah. Did you think you were doing two? You were splitting yourself a bit?
I don't feel like I remember consciously doing that.
Yeah.
But at the weekend it'd be very much I'd go like fishing with my dad.
Yeah.
And then throughout the week I would be whoever I needed to be with my mum. But I didn't feel like I needed to be a chameleon to be someone different with different people.
Yeah.
It was just that's what I did with my dad and that's what I did with my mum. Mum.
Okay, and then school? What was school like?
School started really nice. I went to a really small village school to start with. I've got a brother who was 5 years older, so he was never in the same school as me, which kind of, in some respects was good and in other respects was a bit tricky.
Yeah.
Because if he'd
been to the same schools?
Went to the same schools, but because he may have been through that school and maybe caused a bit of a name for my surname, I would have already been then branded with the same brush.
Teachers and, yeah.
So I was branded with the same brush, and me and my brother are very different people. So school was good. Young school was good. And then as you go into secondary school and you start going through bullying and different issues, and obviously puberty kicks in, and then you turn into this like spotty, chunky, gay teenager with the surname Cox, spelt C-O-X if anyone wants to know.
Yeah.
So I was tortured as a kid for being fat, gay, and with the surname Cox. It wasn't a safe place for me at school.
Were you openly gay at secondary school?
No, in the 90s, no one was openly gay.
Because you're not what, you're not a sort of camp gay. Is that, am I allowed to say that?
You can say camp gay.
What's the, are you? You're quite blokey gay, I would say.
Which
is why you get a lot of straight women hit on you.
I get a lot of straight women. I do.
It's something we laugh about.
I love the fact that being gay is part of who I am, not who I am.
Doesn't define you.
Doesn't define me. So I don't want to walk down the street and everyone go, oh, look at him, he's gay.
Yeah.
I like to just kind of blend in and just, I happen to fancy men.
Yeah.
And that's just who I am.
Yeah.
But equally, I get more attention from women than I do boys.
Okay, so school was a bit tough.
School was tough, but you put your big boy pants on and you crush through it.
But academically, you did okay?
Academically, I did GCSEs and passed everything.
Yeah. And what were your favourite subjects then at secondary? What were you...
Okay, so I had a favourite subject which was art.
Yeah.
And I smashed art through school.
Yeah.
But I had a dream to be a vet.
Ooh.
So I academically pushed myself to do things that would have got me into veterinary school.
So like science and maths.
So again, I worked really hard, and I passed everything GCSE. I then went I wanted to do A-levels at the current school that I was at, but they wanted you to have passed certain GCSEs at A, B grade, and on certain ones I only got a C grade.
Right.
Which then made me have to reevaluate and ended up at my local college instead.
Right.
Which was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because it allowed me to spread my wings.
And what A-levels did you go on to do then?
I did biology, chemistry, environmental science and geology.
Wow.
And passed all with straight Bs.
Yay, bloody hell.
Got a placement to go and do veterinary school through clearing. I didn't get in through because geology and environmental science weren't officially classed as.
Of course.
So I had to go through like a clearing. So went through clearing, got a position to do vet school.
Yeah.
But what I've skipped in that part is in my second year of A-levels, my parents separated.
Right.
And then I was left in this void of figuring out if I was gay, straight, somewhere between, not really sure who I was as a person, and then your whole family unit breaking down. My brother had already left home with him being 5 years older, and all of a sudden it was really tough and quite tricky because I didn't know who I was.
Nothing felt safe.
Or how to be, yeah.
Wow.
So that was tough,
Yeah.
but so in that instance, what I did was I was having my hair cut,
Yeah.
spoke to my hairdresser, which is now my best friend James,
Yeah.
and mentioned to him that I think I needed to take a year out to find out who I was.
So this is in your second year of college?
This
then?
was my I was 17, so my second year of college, yeah.
Yeah.
He threw me a little bit of a lifeline and offered me a Saturday position working in the salon that he worked in.
Wow.
And the rest is history.
Wow, okay. So college in the week, Saturday school at the hairdresser, and then at what point, so then you finished college?
So I finished college in the May,
Yeah.
and I started full-time as a hairdressing assistant in the August.
And you just knew by this point?
I knew I needed to take some time out.
Okay. Oh, okay, so we're in a time-out phase.
I was taking like a year out between A-levels and doing, between doing A-levels and going to university to become a vet, I needed a year out.
Yeah.
But I also equally knew that my parents probably wouldn't have let me just do a DOS year, and I would have had to have been a doing year.
So you
And
needed
again,
to work.
because my parents were separated, money was tied up, I wouldn't have been able to go and do this whole thing of where I could go. That's just some boy racer, by the way. And I knew I wouldn't have been able to go and just have a whole year out and just travel Australia and do that kind of stuff. It just wasn't an option. So I thought I would take an easy route, is what I thought at the time, and just be a hairdresser and not have to do anything academic and just basically take my foot off the gas for a year.
Wow. So you didn't. So at this point, no hairdressing courses or anything like that. You were just there assisting around the salon.
I literally was a glorified cleaner and hair washer. Yeah.
For a whole year.
I started there in the August. They then enrolled me into my local college again. So the college I'd already done A-levels at, they enrolled me in to do my NVQ level 2 because I basically told them that I was going to take a year out and see where I was at.
Yeah.
But they were like, if you're going to be on our apprenticeship scheme, I needed to go and be an apprentice and do the correct way of doing stuff. So they enrolled me in my local college when I was probably 17, 18, somewhere around there, And I started my NVQ in hairdressing.
Wow. But still not really with a plan as such.
Still not really with a plan, kind of thinking to myself, like, I still wasn't out to my parents. My parents didn't know I was gay. I was going through a bit of a tough time with finding out who I was, body image, all that kind of stuff. And I just needed a full stop. Okay,
so can we reference James, or we can cut this out because we can check with him, but so James is gay.
James wasn't gay at the time.
But he wasn't at the time, is where I was going with that.
But he's gay now, yes.
So it's not like you were exposed to a very open gay environment or
none. In the hair salon that I worked in, he was the only male.
Yeah.
Everyone else was female, and it was quite a glam environment, especially for the first year. After I'd done a year at hairdressing college, I was then offered a lifeline with my university to go and do veterinary school, and they basically said that if I was to go back, I could go straight in, or I could have deferred for a second year, but if I deferred for a second year, I had to do an entry test to basically make sure I was still working at the level required to become a vet.
Okay.
But actually, year 2, so I worked for a year in the hair salon.
Yeah.
In year 2, we had a issue with a staff member that was basically taking advantage of the staff systems and the staff protocols, and I was what they call fast-tracked into London. So I was sent from the salon I was in Peterborough to a salon in Knightsbridge to basically go and do 6 months worth of intense training.
Wow.
So I would then have worked for the company for 18 months and I would have come out as a full stylist within that world. Yeah. So you can imagine now, an 18-year-old, not sure if he's gay, not sure if he was straight, all of a sudden catapulted into a world he'd never been to.
Hadn't really planned to, almost just happened into it.
Just happened. Yeah. And it was really weird because my university place was also in London.
Yeah.
So I was now working for this international hairdressing brand in Knightsbridge, rubbing shoulders with like models and things like we used to call them Maharad's helmets, where they would basically come and just get a daily blow dry. And all of a sudden I was catapulted into this world of glamorous gay men, straight men.
Well, the brand you're talking about, which we won't name it, people can probably guess, but
back in the day, that
was the brand. That was the hairdressing salon. It was the brand to be at, and you just like happened into it.
I just kind of stumbled into it. It was the only hairdressing brand to receive something like super brand status, which is the same as people like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So it was a huge issue. But now all of a sudden I was working in this branded salon, surrounded by...
In London,
surrounded by fabulous people, all from all different types of walks of life. And it was a massive eye-opener because I'm a village country boy that had never really been to London.
Yeah.
I'd been to London with family and I'd done a little bit of shopping, but I'd never been to London. Like I remember the first time I got the train to London on my own. And the first day I did it, I was just like, oh my God, I'm an adult. I'm 18 and I'm an adult. Little did I know at 18 you're still not an adult. Right. You don't know what to wear, you don't know how to smell, you don't know how to, like, anything. You didn't know anything.
No.
It was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I remember what I actually did was, I had to be down there for 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. And on the Sunday, I took myself down and did like a recce route.
Did you?
To make sure I knew where I was going and how long it was going to take me, because I'd never been to London alone. I'd never been on the tube alone. I'd never walked down Knightsbridge High Street alone.
Most people wouldn't do that. It shows how diligent you are though, doesn't it?
So I had to do it, and I basically turned up on that Tuesday, again, like a country boy, and the first job I had, I was basically given, I will never forget this, ever. I was given a can, like what looked like WD-40. It even had like a little red thing on, like a WD-40 like straw. And I was basically asked by the salon manager to go around and spray all of the flat, snortable surfaces with this stuff.
Right.
I have no idea what the stuff was I was squirting. It was in just like it was like a navy blue can, had no writing or anything on it. I obviously knew what when he said snortable.
Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, this is for drugs.
Yeah.
But it actually wasn't for drugs for staff members. It was for drugs for
clients that are coming in.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, your shelf there's perfect.
Right. So they literally.
So this was like a sticky stuff that would almost stop it.
This wasn't. I think it was to taint it or to
do so.
I don't know. Do you know like when kids are trying to like not
spite their nails?
Right. I don't know if it was a way of tainting it or what. I have no idea. But this was my first job.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
In Knightsbridge, back in like 1999.
Amazing.
Right.
Okay, so then you're down there for 6 months.
So I did 6 months at that
just
salon.
daily commuting.
Daily commute.
Yeah.
I was then offered a position back at my original salon once my training was done.
Yeah.
And I went back there and did some bits and bobs, but equally, because we were classed as company owned, I also had to be a bit of a floater. So I worked for different salons within London, and basically if someone was on maternity leave or someone was a long time sick or someone was having an operation, I would have to basically just
You were on an apprenticeship programme, basically.
I was on an apprenticeship programme.
Yeah.
Even though I'd done 18 months and I was now fully qualified, my apprenticeship was for a minimum of a 2-year period.
Yeah.
So I basically had to go where I was sent.
That was quite cool though, wasn't it?
It was quite cool because you didn't really know where you were, and basically you had to just cover a column of whoever there might have been that time.
Yeah.
So I remember going to Bluewater and to Covent Garden and as far down as like Portsmouth and all these different places that you basically would just say, tomorrow you need to be here at this time. So that was me clapping my hands. And
what a great experience though, and what a confidence builder though.
Massive confidence builder.
Because ultimately that you are thrown into new situation after new situation after new situation, and you've got to
But it was at that time when I felt my confidence was at its all-time high.
Yeah.
That my mum called me out for being gay.
Did she?
Yeah.
So she just sort of sat you down and said...
No. So I'd been to... my brother is also gay. 5-year older brother is also gay.
And he'd already come out to her?
He has never really done the whole come out. He's done the whole thing of like, oh, I'm just living with a man, and just to let people assume that that's what's happening.
Right.
So I basically said to him, I think I might be gay, and he took me to like my first gay bar experience in Birmingham. I was freaking out and all this kind of stuff. And as I walked in, my mum's really close friend was on a hen do, because my mum's originally from Birmingham.
Right.
So my mum's friend was there. She knew about my brother, but she didn't know about me. And me and her basically just spiked this kind of like, you know when you have an auntie but she's your mum's friend rather than an auntie who's blood related.
What are the chances of that?
Right, so we just started this spike of chat to and from. And then what happened was, this lady was called Dawn. Dawn had got a husband, and one night I messaged late and I just put something like, thank you for everything, I'll always love you.
Right.
And her husband saw the text message and called my mother the next day thinking I was having an affair with his wife.
Oh my gosh.
Because the thread had been deleted.
Yeah.
She deleted the thread, and all he saw was...
Well, is there a thread? We're talking like ages ago. Was it not just a phone?
Well, I think in Nokia days, you still probably would have had...
Maybe you did,
a bit of a thread. I can't remember, but basically, he put 2 and 2 and came up with 5.
Yeah.
And then I remember my mum calling me at the salon I was at that time.
Because she needed it. Wow. God, how tricky though.
Because...
It's the definite difference to her, the devil in the deep blue sea, isn't it? Is he going to gay, or is he actually...
Is he actually having an affair with my wife? Not my wife, with my friend. Yeah, with my best friend. So she called me at the salon, asked me a question. I was semi-out to certain people within the salon that I was in, but not to everybody. So I didn't want to call myself out on reception. So I then had to run to my locker, send my mum a text message, which back in the day took forever.
Yeah.
All the whole time I'd got a client in a chair waiting for me to basically say, I'm not having an affair with Dawn. I think I might be gay. Love you. Kiss. I then had to go and finish said client and hope for the best that when I got back to my mobile phone...
So had your mum asked you if you were gay, or had she asked you if you were having an affair?
She asked me if I was having an affair.
Yeah.
She said to me, are you having an affair with Dawn? And I said, Mum, I can't talk right now. I'm with a customer.
Yeah.
Ran to my locker, sent the text message. I'm not having an affair with Dawn. I think I might be gay. I just reached out to her for a little bit of emotional support, blah, 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 blah. And then had to go and finish my client with my heart racing at 1,000 miles an hour, thinking, what am I going to go back to? My mum saying, oh, I disown you, I this, I that, or the other, or whatever. And it was brilliant. And I've still got the text message to this day. And it basically just got back, thank God for that. I'll sort it with Richard. Love you too. Kiss, kiss. It was just like the norm. It was so normal.
Yeah, whatever kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, how amazing.
So that was good. That was quite a positive outcome, but it also probably gave me the kick up the arse to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes you can sit on the fence forever and a day.
So when you were in that nightclub then, how old were you? 18?
I would have been probably 19.
18, 19.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, without going too far into your whole gay life story here, and keeping it back on track for the podcast, as much as I really want to, that's a whole other podcast. Okay, so then you finish your apprenticeship though?
Finished my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
I was then offered a full-time position in my hometown salon.
Yeah. With James.
Who would have been my manager at the point.
Yeah.
And I came back and worked in the Peterborough branch for, what was I? So it would have been 19, for probably 3 to 5 years. 3 years probably.
Yeah.
Before I met somebody who you obviously know of.
Yeah.
And put some feelers out, but also the whole time I'd been doing that, I'd been working my way up through the group of this salon branch that I worked for.
Yeah.
And I was also now classed as an art director and was working in London a couple of days a week and then in Peterborough a couple of days a week. And basically was doing kind of like London Fashion Week with them and then coming back to my hometown and doing just general day-to-day stuff here.
My hair, basically.
Your hair, yeah. And half of
From
everyone
London
else that you
Fashion Week to Chops' hair.
There we go. So that was that. And then I obviously met Philip.
Yeah.
And I put some feelers out. He lived in Birmingham, really random. I met him in a gay bar. He was originally from Peterborough. I'm originally from Birmingham. He is now living in Birmingham and I'm living in Peterborough. So it was kind of like crossing of paths. It was like a sliding door moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, we kind of had whatever we had, and Nikki Clark was opening a salon in the Mailbox in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I basically, at this point in time, was kind of management level, but there wasn't enough management room within the branch.
No, you had nowhere to go.
There was nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll take a sidestep. My education's good enough, and basically applied to go and be the assistant manager of this branch in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And they did an entry test and they did all this different stuff and basically was offered the job on the day I did my test.
Wow.
Which was amazing and brilliant. And at that point in time, James had just handed his notice in and he was going to go and open
But you didn't know this?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
He was going to go and open his own local branch salon rather than being part of this big corporation they were talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. So then the assistant manager was now moving up to becoming manager.
Yeah.
So there was an assistant manager opening in the salon that I was currently working in.
Yes.
So
you went back with your job
I went back with my job offer, went to I didn't even go to James because basically James was like, right, he now said, I'm out.
Did it go quite quickly, if I imagine that really random?
You, more or less when you handed your notice in with this company we worked for.
You did. You just suddenly went, didn't you?
You literally went.
Yeah.
So the assistant manager hadn't really been made up to a manager, so he put me in touch with our general manager, which was a lady called Brenda, and she scared everybody.
Yeah.
She just had this air about her that just scared everybody.
Yeah.
So I went to her and told her what the plan was and that I'd met Philip and it was his hometown and my hometown and going back to Birmingham and all this. And she basically said, I'm not accepting your resignation. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I'm not accepting your resignation. So if you want to leave, I'm not going to hold you to thing, but I will not give you anything to resign. She said, I don't want to lose you. We're going to figure this out. What do you need? How do you want this to work? Blah, 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 blah. And
in fairness for her, James is going. You're there going. They're just thinking, shit.
In a small market city that we live in.
Yeah, and you were both...
We're both
names, weren't you?
Within that brand,
yeah.
So she then threw me a bit of a line and said, would you like to be assistant manager of your current store, or would you consider buying the franchise of said store?
Yeah.
I then spoke to my parents about it, figured it all out, and thought to myself, if I don't do it now, I probably will never do it.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up with someone, you'll end up in debt, you're buying a house, all this different stuff.
Yeah.
So I ploughed in both feet and bought the franchise.
I know.
And I was the youngest franchisee in Europe at 22.
I know.
It was a big old decision.
It was a big decision.
Scary as all hell.
Yeah.
But it was a really good decision.
Yeah, yeah.
And working for that brand was a brilliant thing for me. I absolutely loved it.
So how long were you the owner? Because you lived above it, didn't you?
I lived above it, yeah. It came with a service apartment. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
They do it in 5-year chunks. So if you wanted to maybe have a baby or something like that, there's always a lucky get out.
Yeah.
So I worked and owned it for 5 years.
Yeah.
At the end of that 5 years, my then partner Philip and I were more or less separating.
Yeah.
So we were in this real weird time there. He'd basically been offered a job up in Leeds or somewhere. And I put in an option to basically transfer my franchise to Leeds, or maybe I'd buy a second one in Leeds and have two. They said because they were too far away, actually Leeds to Peterborough was too far from each other to be able to manage both.
That would not be the case now, would it?
On the train now, as good as it is, it would be like, I'm hopping on the train, I'm in Leeds tomorrow.
Everyone's perception of time and travel is so different now, isn't it?
And post-COVID, you know, we're used to travelling. People now travel for...
They wouldn't even bat an eye at that.
Wouldn't even be an issue, because Leeds to Peterborough, I think, is like an hour and 15 minutes or something. So it would have been easy to do, but it didn't happen. And so it was all just a really weird time, because I then also had to make a decision of, do I keep the franchise and stay with, or do I make a decision to jump and see where we can go?
Yeah.
And
So you're going through a breakup at the same time. So the need for a fresh start is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was, I lost my home, my partner, and changed my job within 3 months.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all plain sailing, because officially I wanted to get out of the UK hairdressing, and the company that I'm talking about that I worked for had opened up this brand was already in the States, but they opened up a UK version of this brand in the States.
Yes, yeah.
And I got in touch with a franchisee out there, and because I was an art director and I was part of the education team, I basically said, for the West Coast of America, I could be their brand ambassador for Label M, and also be their head of education, rather than them having to send people to either New York or to London to do the education that I could then teach on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So that all came about. That all went absolutely to plan. It was all going to go through. And at this point, what I was now doing was, just to keep my kind of hand in, I'd left the franchise. I was renting a chair with James in his salon.
New salon, yeah.
And I was ploughing and getting ready to move my life to California.
Yeah.
And it was going on, and I was applying for a green card, and this company sponsored me. It was all happening. And literally 5 working days to the day that my green card was due to come, the salon that had sponsored me went bankrupt. And it all came shattering down. Yeah. So I was probably now 9 months into leaving the company that I'd worked for. I'd been ploughing on to work for the same company but in America, and getting a green card in that respect, but still now working 9 months with my best friend in his salon in Peterborough, and still keeping a client base and all that kind of stuff.
But a lot of change.
Lots of change.
And there was still fallout, wasn't there, with the relationship?
There was loads of fallout. Yeah. The whole relationship, even though we separated in the August, we probably weren't fully done till like the following March. It was just dragging on and off, and we had to sell a house, and all sorts of crazy stuff was going on. You just
questioned everything, didn't you? I remember.
Everything. Yeah. It was just like it was like a full, someone had grabbed that rug and yanked it, and I was just in this turmoil of tumbling like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Bloody hell. Okay, so then America's off. So you go, okay, I'll just stay with James for a bit, try and figure out another plan.
Figure out where I was at. I had weekly phone calls from my previous manager, Brenda, asking if I could go back, or asking if I would basically go and manage a salon in London. And as much as I attempted, and for 5 years I was tempted to go back, it took 5 years to get that company out of my skin. I would have gone back. But the problem was, they take too much of a cherry.
Yeah.
And therefore, when you're used to working for yourself, and you can take a bigger cherry and work less, or work less and earn the same cherry. Actually, the temptation of going back was outweighed by my now financial commitments.
Because you literally were just fully booked. Well, overbooked. You always are.
Overbooked.
And making more money.
Right.
But without that risk. And responsibility.
Yeah.
And
no salon, no staff, no nothing of that to worry about. All I literally had to do was turn up, do my own bookings, do the hair, and basically close the door and
figure your life out.
Yeah.
Wow. How long were you with James over there for?
So I left the company I was talking about in 2010. What are we now, 2024?
Yeah.
And we've been here 8 years. So
6 years?
6
I think we
years.
did the maths of that.
Yeah, 6-ish years.
Wow.
But again, he then went through a breakup with his then wife.
Yeah.
He then came out as gay, and basically we just went like lads in town and just had fun. We were in London every Friday night. We had loads of fun, you know?
Yeah.
Drinking and just kind of like living as gay men in my late 20s, his early 30s, what we should have been doing when we were 18 and 20.
Yeah.
But life doesn't take you that way, does it?
Okay, so then what sparked the change from that then? Right.
So then my client stroke friend Tessa rang me, and she was like, I've got a unit, it's got a car park, everything's ready to go, the landlord's really decent, blah 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 blah, let me know what you want to do. So she put me in touch with our landlord Peter, and we slowly made the transition from being just fully James's salon to now being a joint entity where we now work here.
Yeah. And that is 8 years ago.
8 years, yeah.
So what's the long-term plan with this then? Do you have aspirations for a bigger mega salon again? Or?
We've talked about...
Because you could easily do it, let's face it, between you and James, you'd know how to run it.
We know how to run it, we could both do it.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, the biggest thing for me is staff. Staff members
Managing staff.
Difficult, really tricky.
But just get an assistant manager in for that.
But it still comes down to you. If I was to do it, I think I'd do it where I'd just do everyone's self-employed and you all rent your own space.
Yeah. Because you could just get like a really cool like mega space.
Yeah.
Like you guys are cool enough to build.
But James is also, you got to think, we're not so young anymore.
So
James is 50.
Old.
Not
That
old,
is not old, stop it.
but in the hairdressing world, it is.
No, I don't think, not for guys.
And your body can't do it, our bodies are broken, we're having to have like sports massages weekly to try and keep on top of
Yeah,
it.
it's just on your feet.
It kills you.
One thing, obviously, when this goes out, because it's going out, obviously the first pod of TWWork, we've time-lapsed my hair, haven't we?
We have.
And the amount of people moving in it, it made us laugh, didn't it? Obviously, I'm sitting there, you're like a bee.
Yeah.
You're everywhere. You look like you sort of, yeah.
You don't realise how much you moved, do you?
No, did you realise how much you moved?
I knew I moved a lot, but it's stupid things like my iWatch says that I do 10 kilometres just at work.
Yeah. Which is mad, isn't it?
It's absolutely mad.
Okay, so no mega salon then on the cards?
Currently, no. We have talked about maybe doing something and having like a dual site where James will manage one and I'll manage another.
Okay.
But again, with COVID, lockdown, I think we need 5 years clear of all of that, which we're nearly at.
Yeah.
But just to kind of get ourselves, A, back on the straight and narrow, and B, to kind of get our heads around where we'd do it, how we'd do it, if we'd employ people or if people would be self-employed. There's just a whole lot of stuff to sort out that I think it's a classic case of once bitten, twice shy.
I know. And at the moment, your work-life balance is pretty good, isn't it?
Really good. I work 4 days a week. I can do as much as I want or as little as I want. I am a hairdresser. This is going to sound crazy and all my clients just can't believe it even happens, but I'm a hairdresser that doesn't work Saturdays.
I know.
And I'm just, I can, no matter what day I work, whether it be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
But you
Friday.
do your evenings and everything else.
I do
That's how you
evenings.
get everyone in.
So I get everybody in, but whenever I work in, I'd always be fully booked, which sounds a little bit braggy, a bit big-headed, but it's not. That's not who I am. It's just I had the best education, and it's just made us good at what we do. So I just say, keep your eyes down. If this is what you want, work hard.
And also, maybe don't be put off by a bad salon.
Don't be put off by a bad salon.
Because
take a side step, find a different salon, and move forward.
But maybe at least see out your term, whatever it is, stick through it, and know that there is,
Because at the end of it, there's an amazing career to have. And if you look at it, like I see stuff on TikTok and all these different stuff, where they say that hairdressers are the happiest people at work.
Really?
But you just have quite a lot of tough times to get there.
Yeah.
So I would just say, if you're going to start in hairdressing from the age of 16, 17, don't expect to find it easy till you're probably 25.
Yeah.
And because it's not easy.
But what you can do when you're there is really carve out a great career.
You could carve out an amazing career.
Yeah.
You can work the hours you want to work.
You could be,
Yeah, so again, the salon that I worked for, you could go and work for there was options to go to Dubai, there was options to go to America, there was options to go to Australia, all of those options to go and travel and do everything you wanted to do.
But just as you now, you could still do that.
I could still do that,
You could go and
Yeah, so I would go and basically I could probably go back to the company that I used to work for and basically say, I'm this, I've done this, they'd do an entry test, I'd probably pass because it's quite basic, and you could find a job anywhere.
But equally, you could just go to probably any high-end salon in Dubai.
Yeah.
And probably get a job.
But I could probably only cut men's hair.
Really?
Yeah.
How interesting.
Because you can't see women without certain head scarves and stuff. But Australia, say, I could maybe move to Australia and I could basically
Your skills are so globally transferable.
Yeah. And because my knowledge of hairdressing, because I was also an educator, I would probably be... I could transfer my knowledge really easy.
Yeah.
So I always say, hairdressing is amazing, but there's 10 years worth of graft before you see any glory.
Yeah. But then you've just described doctors, surgeons.
My friend's just qualified as a doctor. Yeah, it's taken her 12 years at university to become a doctor.
There you go. But then surely with any job, to be the top of your game. The problem is, like you say, kids want it quick though, don't they? But really, our generation definitely, to do anything to get to any level, you had to work for a good 10 years. You were nobody for 10 years, were you?
No.
Okay. Right, I'm going to ask you my 3 final questions.
Go.
I'll let you get back, because I have no idea where this might go and what more we might do here. But my 3 final questions are always, is there any advice you would like to give your younger self? Could be any version of your younger self. That confused kid at secondary school, college, any version, but is there any advice? And if you'd wish you'd known when you were younger?
I wish, as an adult gay male now,
Yeah.
I wish I had have known at 16, 17, 18, maybe more brave gay men.
Yeah.
So that I can say that at 30, I would be comfortable with who I was.
Do you think that's different now?
I've just really recently watched a TV show called Heartstopper, I think it was.
Yes, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
about these gay guys that fall in love at secondary
kids,
school.
they're 16, aren't they? Yeah.
They're 16, they fall in love at secondary school. And it broke my heart to just wish I had have been braver at school to be who I wanted to be.
Because also you've got sex education, haven't you?
Yeah.
And shooting out while that kind of thing. I
think being gay now is more open, but equally, I had a friend that once said to me, oh, you know, being gay is so much easier than it was 20 years ago. And I'm not saying it isn't, it still is. But I still wouldn't walk down the street holding my partner's hand or give any kind of PDA to William through judgment. Because, do you know what? Being gay is still different. And if you're different, you are still an easy target for people that do not necessarily appreciate or understand.
People have never been angrier, generally, have they?
People are angry, yeah.
People are angry with everything at the moment. They just need something to tip them, don't they?
Yeah. Or they just need something to, like say, just to trigger them.
Yeah.
Like they might see a guy kissing another guy on the lips, and I'm not talking a full-on blowout of a pash. I'm just talking about a see you later, goodbye, like a kiss you on the cheek and say bye, babe, see you later.
Yeah.
But to see 2 men doing that, a lot of people are still triggered by.
Yeah.
And that's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
So
really
I just
sad.
wish I'd have known brave gay men who were older than me when I was at that 16, 17, 18-year-old, really influential part of my life, knowing full well that it will be okay.
Do you think, this is a really broad question, we can't even remotely go into it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think that would have, because it feels to me like that would have fundamentally shaped your gay journey, for want of a better phrase? Because as already described, you're quite a non-gay gay.
Yeah.
And I think so, and how much of that is just inherent to you, and how much of that is masking
I think it's
and fitting in?
Yeah.
And now it's just part of your psyche, it's all you know.
I think I probably have masked being gay because in the 80s being gay was actually wrong.
Yeah.
So when I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, you know, the whole Freddie Mercury dying from HIV and all that kind of stuff was so rife that being gay was actually feared.
Yeah, of course it was. It literally was like, we were going to die.
Yeah. But being gay was illegal till 1967. So my parents, born in the 50s, remember gay people being persecuted for being gay.
Yeah.
So then as a gay man in the 80s, knowing full well...
later.
Not really.
No.
67, I was born in 82. It's hardly any time at all, really.
No.
So to come out to your parents, knowing full well that your parents see it or could have seen it as being wrong and, you know, anti and this, that and the other. I'm really fortunate that my mum wasn't that. But my mum would have had friends that was that. Yeah. So therefore, I'm not only just doing it for myself. I'm probably doing it to protect my parents, to protect different people. Yeah. I've got an older brother that was gay, so I was probably having to be the grandchild provider. I was definitely masking who I was.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I would have definitely, if I'd have been to the doctors and they'd have given me a pill, I'd have taken a pill to just wake up straight the next day because it's easier than being gay. Yeah. But I got to probably 32. I was out of that toxic relationship and trying to get into America and all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't change it for the world now because I love who I am.
I know. But isn't that like...
But I was probably 30 to 32 before I was comfortable enough to be who I want to be. Yeah. So I've only lived 10 years of feeling how I should feel. Yeah. And I've spent 30 years of feeling shadowed of who I really should have been. Yeah.
Okay. Second question then is, what life advice, or is there any life advice you think your older self would give you now? So 65-year-old Simon, what would he say to you now?
He would say, you should have saved more money so you can retire
earlier. You do have amazing holidays though.
You should have saved more money so you can retire earlier. And he would also say, even though you work hard, don't forget to live and be where your feet are.
Ah, interesting.
Because on a 4-inch phone screen, it's too easy to be in somebody else's life and not in your own. I.e., you look at someone that's in like a beautiful spa in Bucharest, or someone that's sitting on a beach in, I don't know, Fiji, wishing our life that we were there, but your life isn't there.
Yeah.
Your life is where your feet are.
Yeah.
Be where your feet are, because that's the moment that you need to be in.
Well, in which case, is that probably the answer to my third question? Because my final question is always, is there just a mantra or just a piece of advice that you really believe in that you want to throw out there to anyone?
It's exactly what I've just said.
Yeah.
Be where your feet are. Because before you know it, you're 40, and before you know it, you'll be 60.
Yeah.
And
and you've missed it.
You've missed it.
Yeah.
Because we're too interested in trying to live our life. I swear, these phone screens are going to be the end of us.
I know.
Because it's too easy to live our life through a phone screen.
Yeah.
So I would always say, be where your feet are.
Yeah.
In mind, body and soul, be where your feet are.
Just going to end the chat there, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and or this role, then please go to our website www.TWWork.org. The link is in this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.